When you look at evaluating being efficient and elite on defense, what are kind of the categories that you're looking at when maybe it's post game, maybe it's stat categories? What do you kind of, offense is maybe points per possession or points per play? What is it for you on defense?
Yeah, I mean, face value, right? Scoring defense just in general, right? Like finding ways to stop people, right? Whether they start the ball, the drive on the 1 yard line or the minus 1 yard line, doesn't matter, right? Just finding ways to get off the field. I think in order to do that, right, you have to be situationally, special. I think you got to be able to get off the field on third down. I think you got to look at red zone and what you're able to do in the red zone. Some of the overall red zone numbers, I think, can be a bit skewed. When you really look at it, are you holding people to field goals? Are you limiting the amount of touchdowns that are actually scored down in the red zone as well? And then, when you get into some of the other auxiliary things, but they're huge numbers. We talk about the double positives all the time. So the turnover margin and explosive plays, you want to win those two categories, right? And, Major Applewhite, when he was a graduate assistant at Texas, did a study years ago. We brought this to South Alabama. We used to always talk about it. But, when you win those two categories, I think the winning percentage was closing in on 86%, 87% winning percentage when you can win both those two categories. So for us on defense, taking the ball away is a huge opportunity for us, and it's a huge point of emphasis. When you can take the ball away from people, every single opportunity on the field, I think, is looked at through a different lens. We talk to our players about, every single play is an opportunity for 11 people to create a takeaway, not get a tackle, not get a pass breakup, not get a sack, right? But to create takeaways for our defense. And at the same time, right, you want to be mindful of limiting the offense's explosive plays and none for touchdowns. I don't think in this day and age you're ever going to eliminate them, right? But if you can limit explosive plays and none for touchdowns, I think those two categories fit right in there with situational execution. Yeah.
To kind of piggyback off that, how as a play caller on defense do you balance risk in big moments? And when you're taking, I think the interesting thing is like big moments on offense, big third down, like you don't have that many, like 3rd and 10, you got to throw the football on offense, but on defense, you can drop 8, you can bring pressure, you can go cut. Like, how do you balance that in your mind when you're calling plays on the sideline?
Real quick, before we get back to the podcast, I got to tell you guys about our new sponsor, Ekrin Athletics, man. Ekrin is one of my favorite products I've ever tried, one of my favorite sponsors of this podcast. Their new percussion massager is elite. The Kestrel percussion massager just launched, and it is their best massage gun yet. And I've tried a lot of these guns. There are several upgrades over their previous guns, which were already considered among the best available. This massager is extremely powerful, and it gives a deep tissue massage. Its angled handle design makes it easier to get to more areas, and the scrolling wheel makes it easy to adjust while you're using it. It has 6 speeds and 6 attachments, so you can really tailor it to your needs and to your muscle group you're targeting. I wish I had this when I was playing. I probably would have avoided some injuries, been more ready to play on game day, and recovered faster. Best part, I have a promo code for all of you to try Ekrin and their new massage gun. Use promo code NEXTUP for 25% off all orders on Ekrin Athletics. That's promo code NEXTUP for 25% off all orders. And guys, supporting our sponsors helps me a ton. So go support Ekrin Athletics. Use that promo code NEXTUP for 25% off your orders.
How do you balance that in your mind when you're calling plays on the sideline?
I think that's kind of the special sauce, right, of what makes a good coordinator from a defensive perspective is we call them bullets on defense, right? You have different calls that are a bullet that you're going to throw out there, right? And you want to throw it out at the right time, right? And some of that is a situational down, right? A key third down or a red zone play or in 2-minute drive. But you got to be mindful of those things, right? What is the risk reward of being aggressive on defense? I think nowadays, when you look at the landscape of college football from an offensive perspective, people are doing such a great job with all the formations, all the shifts, personnel matchups. They're creating lateral and vertical space in the RPO game and all that stuff. And so, if you just let them bleed you down the field, they can do that. And so you got to be mindful of getting them off topic, right, or off schedule. And so from our perspective, that's something that we constantly want to be mindful of. But ultimately, I think when you recognize, okay, this formation on this down is an opportunity for us to maybe throw a bullet at them, right? And knowing that, they could do this or they could do that, and we feel pretty comfortable either way when that bullet is thrown, that we're, either going to create a negative play for ourselves or we're going to be in a fine position right on the opposite side. And so I think that's where you've seen teams that want to pressure a little bit, but they don't want to bring the house every time. That's why you've seen more simulated pressures over the last decade here. People want to bring somebody, but they still want to play a traditional 7, man spacing coverage. And so for us to be able to kind of utilize some of those simulated pressures, but then, you've got some zero pressures, you've got some man-free pressures, you got all those things. And so I think it's the fun cat and mouse game, right, that you go game plan for every week.
I could ask a bunch of ball questions right now, but we may start losing people
Sorry,
about the simulated pressures. It's good stuff.